All right, everybody. Are we live? All right. Here today, Joe Welu, CEO Total Expert, with my good friend Julian Hebron. And super excited to start a series of our LinkedIn Live events where we're going to jam on some of the current trends and topics, innovation, emerging trends that we're seeing in the industry, and really what we're hearing from a lot of the leadership that we talk with at various organizations. So, Julian, awesome to be with you, my friend. Why don't you kick us off with a little bit about what we're going to discuss today?
Yeah, absolutely. How's it going, Joe? It's good to see you. It's good to be on live too. This is
you're in Colorado, by the way.
That's right. So you might see some river trail people walking by behind me. So yeah, no, this is a fun warm up because we're finally going to go live with events in general here as we move into the fall, which is, I think, everybody
real live in person.
Oh my God.
Wait for that.
I think
I just saw the conference season and I can't wait.
It's coming, man. So this is staying sharp, keeping everybody else sharp. So here's what I thought we could do today. Few quick things. Everyone, we all talk about the mortgage customer retention, and I like to kind of frame this of like, is customer for life that everyone talks about a tagline or reality? So we'll kind of do a quick history lesson of why customer retention was best and worst in the last few cycles. Some top loan officer and company tactics to make customer for life a reality in 21. Yeah. And then what are the 4 mortgage tech musts to master customer retention? I kind of map out the tech landscape because, I know how passionate you are about this, but I want to frame the entire thing and sort of bounce some comments off of you as you look at the entire tech stack and specifically how it relates to this topic of retention.
Yeah, happy to go into that. I mean, first, what I would say is we've been having this conversation for a long time, but as you're starting to look forward over the next year to 18 months, and we know that the best run companies are always playing the game of they're looking into the future, right? They're playing the tape forward. Where do we need to be in 12 months, 18 months, 24 months to compete and really have a long-term competitive advantage as a modern lender, right? And it's become increasingly clear that if you do not master retaining and keeping customers, having customer loyalty, if you don't master that inside your organization, you're going to be in a position of weakness moving forward, right? There's so many players that are getting really good at customer acquisition. So the relationship that you have post kind of acquisition is critical. And so, yeah, that framing, obviously, let's get into some.
Yeah, let's do it because there is a comment when we look at the data about just that acquisition, which originators are great at, by the way, but retention is the biggest challenge. So, and by the way, to everyone on, you can pop in questions. So if there's anything that we're talking about, like we can hit those live too. So just make a note of that as well. And please chime in. So if we could, what I'm going to do is just kind of go through these 2005 to 2021 trends on retention. This is Black Knight data that a lot of us refer to. Most of the headlines tend to come on that last green dot, which was the last time Black Knight released this data. 18% customer retention as of the end of 2020. Next week, I would expect that we'll probably get Q1. But let's look at the whole thing. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to drill down on that. I mean, really, what we're saying or what the data tells us is really only 1 in 5 customers are being retained, at least at a servicing level. Is that what the data is telling us?
That's correct. Yeah. And as we know, so many orgs are originator servicers. As we round this one out today, we're going to kind of tee up part 2 because this is a multi-part series that we're going to do for you guys. And so part 2 would go like into the weeds on servicing. But for now, the idea is, to your point, Joe, customer for life, customer loyalty. So I would go so far as to say, does it matter to a consumer, originator, servicer? Like, consumers don't know that. They just know if they want to stick with the org that did their loan in the first place or the loan officer, right? That's what this is about. So this is us doing the technicals on it, but the customer doesn't know. So with that said, all they know is, are you engaging them? So I want to kind of do, if I could, let me.
Are you engaging in them, and is there a cohesive connection between when they transition from transaction over to that post-transaction relationship, right? And
That's exactly right.
those stylos still exist. And what's been, I think, shocking to everyone in the industry is how, as an industry, it's just been tolerated that you're going to lose 80% of your customers. And coming from a business where our entire value is on being able to retain our customers and make them happy, it's just shocking, obviously, as an industry, that it's kind of been tolerated as okay, right?
Yeah.
So it's great to see so much energy around it now.
Let's do this real quick. So it's fun to when you actually get wonky about this stuff, because you're like, what was going on in the middle? We got to 50% and above, right, in those 2008 to 2014 years. And you're like, what were we doing then that was so much better, right? Why before and now are we so kind of off, right? And here's some quick details, that I think should resonate with everybody. The 50% plus range from 2008 to 2014 happened for two main reasons. One is there was a lot less competition as many originators, servicers exit or failed during the Great Recession. You got HAMP and HARP streamline refis, which was just way easier to retain, right? Because it was just like, hey, fill in the form, you got your new loan.
They literally sent you something in the mail being like, check these boxes and we're going to turn your new loan on. So it almost doesn't, that middle part almost is not, it's not reality where the industry is today, right?
Correct, because the two bookends, if you will, 2005 to 2007, as well as now, we have peak competition. We've got many more originators and servicers in the market. And there's kind of two more reasons, and you touched on one of them. The rise of the giant lead aggregators like LendingTree and Zillow make it easier for borrowers to shop. And let's not forget, like that's a newer phenomenon. According to this chart, those companies were very young in the early phases of this chart, right? And now it's very mature. And then number two is digital originations make it faster for lenders to take in shoppers. So to your point, if you're good at customer acquisition, as some of the, say, direct firms are, they can take them in and keep them at the origination level faster. It doesn't mean that they retain them through the servicing necessarily, but that's kind of why this is happening. So the moral of the story is that if you're not paying attention to your tactical execution, competition might always keep retention low for you. So you got to get your tactical execution down, which is what we're going to kind of talk about.
If you've only invested heavily in your process around, which is still critical to drive costs, if you've only invested in that top of funnel acquisition and transaction part and haven't put strategy and really an action plan around how are we going to increase the loyalty that we have, and the questions that I see people asking are, why would they stay with us? Are we delivering value of any kind, right? Are you sending me just annoying things in the email? And are you just basically, not delivering anything meaningful in terms of value? And so you start asking those questions as leaders in organizations, and you're looking at the problem and saying, wait a second, why would they stay with us, right? What are we doing?
Yep. Well, let's view that one, if we could, through the lens of if you will, like how stark the competition is going to be. And if it's okay, I want to do purchase and refi really fast. We'll do refi first. But what I'll do is just switch the slide here. So let me just flip back and forth for a sec on this, and then we'll talk about what this means. Okay. So here's the mood right now. We had refis ramping up, of course, as the lockdown started to happen, and it turned out to be this gangbuster $2.4 trillion year. So first and foremost, there's still 1.8 trillion refis this year. That's gigantic. The mortgage market in a normal market as a whole is approximately 2 trillion. So that's the good news. Yeah. But you can see it dropping off, and watch this. If we compare, this is last year to this year. This is according to our friends, of course, the MBA. But this is, and so we're a 52% refi market this year. We're a majority refi this year. So watch what happens next year, though. It gets pretty stark and it drops off 74% relative to 2020. So it's a big deal, right? So there's two things, and it's pretty simple. It's you've got cash out and rate and term. And so, Joe, to your point, I think that on the rate and term and cash out, valuation is super critical, because do I know that I can be actionable right away? So what is my lender kind of pinging me on, or what do I have access to through my lender's engagement with me, which in your world comes all through your system, right?
Yeah,
Are they
well,
telling
obviously
me?
we're a part of the orchestration, obviously, or we
Yes.
help with the orchestration of it. We're not obviously the all of the machining that has to happen to do this. But what I think is interesting, if you look at how do I maximize, I want to focus. Obviously, I need to be masterful at my purchase strategy. Okay, and if I think about it, it's both on the acquisition of net new and it's the retention. So you've got a portfolio of customers that it doesn't matter what's going on. I mean, it matters, but it only matters a little bit. What's going on in terms of the rates and things. What matters is what's going on in their life, right? So if their family is expanding, if it's contracting, if they're reaching retirement, whatever it might be, what's driving that next purchase? Because what I learned, and we were both inside the industry as practitioners during the crash. What I learned, and I know what you learned as well, is when everything contracted, what we saw is that still a large amount of homes were still going to be bought and sold every single year, right? 5-6 million, somewhere in
7
that
this
range,
year.
right? 7 this year. And we know there's pent up demand from a purchasing standpoint. So I've got to be very thoughtful about my purchase strategy. But then at the same time, because acquisition or retention is so important, how can I educate my customers that now have huge equity in their home, how to be smart with that equity, right? How to use it for things like if it's college, if it's, if if you're an originator out there and you work with financial advisors, is it better to have some of that home equity diversified into other investments? Maybe, right? But those are the things that I think you have to, if you want to level up as that sort of trusted lifetime advisor to your customer, you have to be able to educate them on those things.
Well, and I would offer this on the refi side. On the rate and term side, it's always about speed. Speed's always about valuation, and valuation right now is a really fun story to tell, and it's pretty
Yeah.
easy. Of like, hey, you've got equity.
It just goes like this. Yeah.
You got equity. You can do this. You can take out your MI in many cases. So that's on the rate and term side. But then on the cash out side, to your point, here it is. The mortgage world is always sort of bizarro. We sort of want things to be not so great so that it keeps rates low. Likewise, the headlines we interpret, or we should interpret differently. The headlines are record non-housing debt, right? That data comes out every quarter from the New York Fed. And guess what? If you have record equity and you can do debt consolidation and put that debt into a rate that's going to be much, much lower, it's the golden age of debt consolidation right now. 2021 is
Absolutely.
the
And
golden age of debt consolidation.
absolutely. And I think about if you're a modern lender right now and you're saying, look, how do I want my customer to view me? Right. And I want them to view me as that trusted financial partner, that financial expert that can help me structure my biggest asset, obviously, in terms of how I'm using debt and how I'm using equity, right? And so you really hit on such a key thing that I believe is an area where a lot of value can be created in the mind of the customer, from the perspective of the consumer, is, hey, help me understand how I can have a better financial outcome here, right?
Yep.
Educate me.
So let me give everybody the units, if you will. So according to HMDA last year, there was just under 6 million, like 5.9 million rate and term rate and term refi units, and 1.93 million cash out units. That's your universe. Okay. minus approximately 25%. So take a quarter off of those two numbers. That's what you're competing for this year. And so, first of all, that's a pretty good, strong market this year. But you saw from those quarterly charts that it drops off, man. So, this is where you really do have to have your stuff together and have your advisory hat on. Speed and advisory. To me, those are the two things. And accuracy on valuation. That's the refi side. But if we could, let's go to the purchase side, because I want to make sure we're also saving time for the tech stack part that powers all of this. I'll just quickly, for those that don't follow this stuff quite so intimately, here's again, let's compare last year to this year, and then last year to next year on purchase. And we can see in both cases, it's very steady. We're going to go from a 37% purchase market to a 48% purchase market this year. And you can see on a quarterly basis, as we move into Q3 and Q4, it's going to feel market-wise a lot like it feels today. If we look at next year, same thing. It also feels pretty good. But remember, if we back up to this refi 2022, where refis drop out so much, what that means here is that it's a 74% purchase market by next year. 74% purchase market by next year. So, Joe, to your point, you got to have your purchase game together as well. And I always say this because I just had so much success with it using a machine like yours, which is like this open house playbook stuff that you help power, where you're helping loan officers actually help realtors run their funnel. All realtors say how sophisticated they are, but at running a funnel, mortgage folks are better marketers. Real estate folks are better salespeople.
Yeah.
And so,
depending on, but yeah, I completely agree holistically with what you're saying. And I think, the theme that you're touching on that I think is important is you have to, it was really easy in lending the last 2 years to forget about my referral partners, right? It was easy to not spend that time, those touches with the realtors and the builders, and getting back out and sort of doing what we see the very best lenders and originators do, which is engaging and being relevant in that to those referral partners, right? And so now I need to be able to get a plan of action and go out and run some of those playbooks on, okay, how do I get back in the game and make sure my referral partners are looking at me as their number one place to send their customers, right?
Well, let's do this. Matthew, I see your question. How often should an advisor proactively engage their clients? So I want to use that as a transition to Joe. I want to talk tech stack. Okay. So I'm gonna bring up this next one, because this is current and emerging categories. I'm gonna do a 40-second tee up on this. This is everything, right? From servicing to originations on the left here. You've got LOS, servicing system of record, that covers like core, default, enterprise, consumer. You got POS, CRM Plus, which is your world, Joe, product and pricing, remote online notarization, which is emerging already into digital closing. But I kind of see the world as like CRM, POS starting to combine, because those two things are so inextricably linked. Like, you better take in that app when you hit them with the right engagement. But there's a few other things here. So I want to kind of, Joe, have you comment a little bit on this. And if we could just leave the slide up for a minute while Joe's talking, and then we can move back to our faces here. But yeah, good, Joe, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at, I think this is really a great slide, Julian, and I'm always impressed on how you pull the plane up and look at the different components. And first and foremost, it truly is a tech stack. No one vendor, no one company, as much as companies have tried, does everything perfectly, and you only need, a couple pieces. You need many layers and pieces to have a modern stack today. And the theme that we feel really overarches all of the different components of the tech stack is really what I've started kind of referring to as the data arms race. Okay. And that means how do I take my customer data, both the data that I have from their transactions and also voice of the customer. We just are going big into how do I elegantly get what my customer's actually thinking about for the next couple of years, right? And how do I get data from other engagement sources and then have the ability to surface insights and then take action on that, whether it's in a POS, whether it's on servicing, whether it's in the marketing and pre-transaction parts of the funnel. But I want to look at the customer journey from first touch to customer for life, meaning when they die, and all of the points in there which I need to interact. And how does that data flow? How do I orchestrate the touches between those different systems, right? Because I've got my different systems of engagement. I've got my transaction systems, back office, front office. How does the data flow so that I can utilize it to have intelligent, meaningful interactions with my customer? And I really, that's the $1 million, I think, problem slash question that organizations are working on is how do I really become masterful at the data side, that data arms race, if you will.
I love that. Also,
Yeah.
just fun fact, mortgage translates from Old French as death pledge. So there you go. Keep
Yeah,
them
well,
till
I didn't mean any violent connotation with the arms race component, but I see so much value that can be created for the end consumer when you
yeah.
get really good at utilizing data in an intelligent way, right? And that's, if you think about it, it's not. We used to think about, when I was in just a marketer in real estate, and even in your days as a marketer in mortgage, you used to think about, okay, how do I kind of set, these lead capture, and how do I do all of these things that sort of, I don't want to say trick, but it'll almost in a way like just kind of build a mousetrap, right? And now it's about how do I use the data to drive value and create value for that end consumer? Because ultimately, if you can't find ways at every stage of the journey to deliver value to that end consumer, you are going to get displaced. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in 3 years, 5 years, but over time, you will get diminished because people will figure out how to use that data to deliver value to your customer.
So I have this view that like automating personalization is most effective in refi, and then purchase is truly a one-to-one. You got to handle each client. You got to handle each realtor. Like, do you agree with that sort of philosophy of it? Or
So,
do you feel
so
like you can automate personalization across the board?
Well, I think you have to always look at, there's things you can automate and there's things that you can augment and enhance. Okay.
Okay.
If I think about, I want to deliver personal touch. We always talk about human plus digital. Okay.
Yep.
So I want to think about, I want to elevate as an originator and a loan advisor, I want to elevate them as that trusted expert. And then I want to insert human touches along the way. And I'll give you an example. I just went through a refinance and a purchase in the last few months personally. First time in years I've done any transactions. And I did some shopping and I did some testing, and I did end up doing the loan with one of our customers actually, but not because I set out that way. I wanted to see what the experience was. And what I've been impressed with is how they have inserted personal touch, meaning I get a text message and I know it's automated, but if I didn't know kind of what I know, I would feel like it was somebody thinking about me and checking in, right? And I've gotten multiple touches like that were not just, hey, can I sell you something and let me know when you want to close, or here's your status, but it was, congratulations. It was, wanted to see if you had any questions. And
Yep.
as much as I realized I know mortgage, I still found myself having questions about how to structure a deal. What was the best program? And that's where you got to put the human being in that and say, hey, we've got to trust it. Here's the advisor here. And there's a reason you're looking at even the call centers that are going heavy at purchase. It's still about that human plus digital, that human plus technology, because there's nothing like being able to ask questions to an expert and have somebody sort of confirm and explain what you think. right?
So let me round this one out, and then we'll kind of start bringing this home and tee up part two. But I want to go back to Matt's question because he said, "How often should an advisor proactively engage their clients?" And let's also just define advisor as both retail LO or centralized LO, right? So going off a couple of those notes that you just gave, um, is it you have this thing called focus view? Focus view is what sort of helps orchestrate whatever that is, whether it's text or a call or whatever, but the advisor gets to see this dashboard. Is that right? Where it's like, this is what I'm seeing. This is where each of the clients are. And it sort of surfaces, hey, you should check in. Like, can you just unpack that for a second?
Yeah. So basically what we've done is we've built out the technology to be able to take what's going on in your customer data set. Okay. Your customer database, both prospects, customers, past customers, and been able to surface who you need to prioritize based on what's going on in their scenario, right? So, for example, you hear us talk, and you will hear us talk a lot about the data insights action motion, the data insights action flywheel, to where you've got data, you need to get insights from that data, and then you need to be able to take action on it, which is the engagement, the consultation, the advisory. And so really all we've done is surface those insights in terms of prioritization of people that you need to talk to, and then having context around it is to, okay, what's going on with this customer, and done it in a way that actually augments and enhances the ability for the loan advisor, the loan officer, to be efficient, right?
Yep.
Um, we've talked for years about the ideal technology is frictionless. It just elevates what the person is good at, and they're not in technology actually doing a thing. It's just kind of elevating what they need to do and helping them do it more efficiently.
I think it's important to note this stack stuff that we just looked at, it matters to a lot of us. But you're right. The loan officer can't be jammed up in different parts of the stack. They just need to know what they need to do to engage those folks. So with that said, let's come back to the main question and tee up the next session. The main question for today was, is customer for life a tagline or reality, right? I think that we're getting there. The next question that we're going to address on the next one, and I'm just going to put it up on the screen here as a teaser, and we're going to talk about this just for 1 minute. We're going to go deep on this next time. But if by definition on this drawing, customers spend most of their time in servicing, then is servicing the key to customer for life? So that's kind of what we're going to get into next time. But Joe, I don't know if you want to make some remarks on you're such a big lifetime journey person.
Yeah.
This is just how we see the world at the basis point, where originations are actually a smaller part of where the customer spends all their time, right?
Well, I think really at a basic level, and we've been doing this for years, and we've gotten arguably much better at working with companies around identifying that holistic journey and then where the gaps are, right? And I
Yep.
think servicing clearly for many is going to be an important part of it, but I really think it's about, we're going to go into this, obviously, this topic, but I
Yep.
ultimately think it's understanding with clarity what an ideal customer journey looks like end to end, and then where you can optimize it, where you can plug the gaps, if you will, because the best run companies still have holes in the customer journey, right? It's impossible not to, with all the different channels of engagement and the different data sets.
So just so everyone knows, I'm going to just put it up so you can make a note of it. Part two, teaser, like spoiler alert, it's not only servicing is a big part of it, but what Joe just said is that there's gaps across originations and servicing. So we're going to get into the weeds on that next time. That's going to be July 8th. But we hope that you come back, because we're gonna keep this going for a little bit and really kind of get granular about all this stuff and really try to keep solving it for everybody.
Yeah, things are obviously evolving and moving very quickly, and super grateful that we obviously have a front row seat and working with some great companies, and want to share some of the knowledge and key learnings that both Julian and I come across as we interact with leadership and the people making it happen across the industry. So love to hear from the LinkedIn community and other channels that we're on about the topics that you're really interested in, because we do have the benefit of having our ear to the ground on a lot of different fronts. So
100%. So
great to be with you, brother.
thanks, Joe. And everybody, tell your friends, we're going to keep this moving as we move through the next couple months.
Cheers, everyone.
See you guys.